Hello. So picking up where we left off last time, when we talked about some of the challenge and some things you would do to deploy a strategic plan. Now let's look at where does quality fit in this deployment phase. Now, obviously, certainly as in a quality course, we want to make sure that we're paying attention to where does all this fit in when you're doing your planning and when you're trying to deploy your plans. And ostensibly what happens is you kind of have two major tools, and one of them is kind of your policies. You might look at and principles as well, and then the other part of it is the various different quality objectives. So what's a policy, right? So the context most of us are aware of the word from is somebody in an organization using it as an excuse to tell us why they can't do something, right? I'm sorry, sir, that's not our policy, or that kind of thing. And although that is one way that it potentially can be used, it's basically kind of like a set of rules for how we're supposed to operate, um, that that kind of provides, it's supposed to provide guidance in any specific situation and to the employees in general. It's not really meant to be an excuse to prevent you from doing things, although, as I said, it is commonly manifested that way sometimes. Um, but it really is a way about kind of reinforcing an approach. And if you go back to, we talked before, one of the things that organizationally you're trying to do is you're trying to get everybody moving in the same direction, and you're trying to get everybody focused on something other than making money. Not that there's anything wrong with making money, but if that's the principal thing that you're after, you're going to make decisions that are going to end up having very negative repercussions on numerous aspects of quality, and ultimately will end up having customer issues. So how do you get everybody focused on being focused on the customers and things to do and stuff like, well, policies are potentially one of the ways that you can do that. So it gives you kind of like, this is how we do this, and this is kind of what we're trying to do here. And it gives you kind of some guidance. And that's really ultimately what it's supposed to be, is guidance. It's not meant to be a hard and fast rule. When you get I'm sorry, sir, that's not your policy, that's somebody using hard and fast rule, right? And not a terribly good implementation of this. Normally, it's supposed to be directional, and it's supposed to be providing some levels of guidance, right? So products free from all unacceptable substances, right? So it's important that we pay attention to the things that we use in making the products that we have, because we don't want to have any property damage, personal health issues, any of that other stuff. That's kind of a guideline, right, about what we're going to do. And inherently, one of the things you'll often find in them is that we'll talk about things they won't do, right? Deliver products and services that meet or exceed customers' requirements on time at competitive prices, right? So we want to satisfy, it's very important that we're on time and that we do it competitively, right? Competitive doesn't mean less. Competitive means that in the landscape of choices, your price to value ratio makes sense. That's competitive. Training showing mutual respect, providing a safe and work environment. Again, it's kind of about the how we are going to do things. So again, it's meant to be a guideline, and it's meant to be directional. Build long-term relationships, commitment to quality without compromise will be sustained through state-of-the-art technology, cost-effective solutions, customization, customer support and training, and investment in research and development. So it tells you kind of where they're going to focus. So it's not, we're going to focus on really kick-ass marketing campaigns, and we're going to focus on undercutting our competition for prices, and we're not, no. They're saying how we're going to do it is we're going to focus on basically value building things that are in there, right? So cost-effective, state-of-the-art technology, customer support and training. These are all kind of longer-term investment pieces that you would have in place. Okay, so they're directional. Usually, you'll find in the context of this as well that you'll have management principles that are either reflected in the policies or they may be explicitly talked about. So these are pieces that should be part of your culture, and in fact, your articulation of them and your demonstration and support of them helps communicate and reinforce that to your to your employees and reinforces that in your internal culture as well. So things like it's better to and easier to retain customers and replace them, which is absolutely true. It is more expensive to acquire new customers than retain existing ones. So as a result, you should be really focused on what do you do to retain them. Now, there's a cost at which it no longer makes sense to do that, and you need to do some analysis to figure out what is a customer worth to you, right? We talked about economic value of a customer, so you need to get some sense. And although truly it's a figures unknown, come from kind of from the Deming speak, you can make estimations that are helpful in guiding behavior. Okay, we value each customer and grow as they grow. It's a reflection of what we're looking for. Is we're looking for the longer term relationship. We're looking for the the flow of business going into the future, which makes an awful lot of sense again, because as I said before, like almost no business is based on a single transaction. It's about a flow of transactions into the future, and you don't get the future ones if you don't do well today. And believe in honesty and mutual respect for our customers and employees. This forms the base of our shared prosperity. This is another part that has reflections both to how you treat the outside world and reflections of how you treat the inside world. Now, if you say this is one of your management principle, but then within the organization, dishonesty and disrespect happens with some frequency, or even happens a little bit, you're going to have some real cultural issues, because you're going to teach your people that you say one thing, but you do something else, right? Which is certainly an environment that you do not want to create. And in some of your principles, right? So things like problems have special causes and common causes, which is kind of your control chart approach. Management must take responsibility for common causes. It's better to prevent defects from getting in than sort them out. It's certainly much cheaper to prevent than make them and then try to kind of sort them out afterwards. And then one of the ways that you exercise or rubber hits the road with some of this stuff is often done with quality objectives. So one of the things that you'll find about these is they tend to talk about something specific. They'll often indicate where you are today, where you're trying to be, and when you're trying to be there. And there'll be very specific parts of the things that you're measuring. And the particular objective speaks to an effort to improve one or more dimensions of quality. So, for example, the first one, errors in processing insurance claims will be reduced from 150 per week, where we are today, to 15 or less per week, where we try to go to, in this case, by the end of 2017. So you know when you started this, right? So let's say it was the beginning of 2017. So basically, within the context of a year, you're going to go from that to that. Now, it doesn't say anything about how you're going to get there necessarily. It doesn't, like, underneath this, you have to go, well, why are they happening? What kinds of issues do we see? Which ones are the most prevalent issues? How do we go after it? Like, so there's a bunch of stuff under wraps that you have to figure out to get there. But it gives you the overall guiding objective. Where am I now? Where am I trying to get to? And when am I trying to get there? And then, as I said, there's lots of stuff under the covers you got to figure out for how you get there. But they give the overlying, and it's designed to have a very specific effect on numerous quality dimensions, right? So you reduce the errors in the processing claims. It's going to reduce the waste, because you're not going to have to go back and fix things. It's going to improve customer satisfaction. So there's a bunch of dimensions that it has an effect on. 80% of all platform personnel cross-trained and qualified to perform a minimum of 5 banking functions by October 1st. So you would know when this was, whatever was being put out. It would make sense to articulate where people are at that point, but it may be one of the things. So given the context of the banking thing, different branches might be in different places. So what they might trying to be doing is to reinforce a universal standard that every branch gets to at least that point, right? So at least 80% of them. And you'd cross-train so that they could perform different functions. So when the branch was busy, people could fill in different roles so that you could satisfy the customer requirements in a more timely fashion, instead of having some people kind of, one person's working away, there's huge lineup, and the other people can't really do anything to help them because they don't really know how to do that particular job, okay? So it's about flexibility to ultimately provide a better turnaround of service. waste of floor covering materials being reduced from 15.6% to 0.5% or less by the beginning of the first quarter of 2017. So again, reducing the waste is going to reduce the cost, is going to improve your productivity in that space, and that will have an effect on potentially a better quality product overall. Cycle time for a product family reduction, again, that'll allow you to do more. That's greater productivity. Greater productivity often certainly has financial benefits to it as well. But that may also let you do things that you weren't able to do prior.